This is the final video for my daughter's art studio project. I'm using a laser level here to get my reference lines for the wainscoting. The wainscoting is made up of 4x8 sheet masonite that's patterned as a brick pattern. I bought this at one of the local big box stores. I'm not going to mention their name because I had them cut it on their saw, and I told the fellow what I wanted, and he kind of got close. Anyway, by cutting it in 4 or 2 foot height, I got 3 panels or 3 full sheets was enough to completely do this room. And here what I'm doing is I'm just kind of color matching the edges to try to minimize the contrast between the 2 edges of the panel. And you can switch them around a little bit and make them blend a little better. Eventually those seams will be covered with trim, but I wanted to have it as close as possible. So the process basically is cut out where I need to, any pieces and reference points, and apply some adhesive. This is just a water-based construction adhesive. Easy to clean up, really good stuff. I use it all kinds of places. Put some pin nails in it and move on. Just kind of a rinse and repeat process. The biggest trick is to make sure your reference lines are dead level, exactly where you want them. Because pretty soon, if you're not careful, your level gets seriously out of level. So that's why I like the self-leveling laser. It gives you a really good point of reference. And all the pin nails are going in right on the edges. Anywhere there's going to be trim covering the panel, the nails go in. So you'll never ever see a nail head. I won't have to worry about those. The big trick here, of course, is cutting out the panels correctly and being careful. And that old saying, measure twice, cut once, is so apropos. But in my case, I got a little complacent, and maybe measuring 3 times, cutting once would have been better. I had exactly 1 extra panel left, the way I calculated. So I wasn't worried about making a mistake. At the same time, I really didn't want to make a mistake. This wall here is just a plain wall. There's no outlets, windows, or anything to worry about. So it went up in about, I think I spent a total of 6 minutes putting up these panels. Very quickly. And again, these are just 18 gauge brads. Just trying to fit up the panels so the colors are pretty close at the edge. Again, all those seams will be covered with a piece of trim. I wish I didn't have to do that, but it is what it is. This whole wainscoting cost about $100 for the panels, and I spent another $100 to trim out the room with window, door trim, baseboard trim, and the chair rail for the wainscoting. So it was actually very economical, and if you look at the pictures at the end, you'll see that it was really worth the effort, I think. Now I choose this pattern and this color because it's neutral tones. Remember, this is her art studio, so you don't want a lot of strong colors in there. So this is the next panel. You got to go around the window and then get the outlet. Careful measurement, always careful measurement. So write it down, measure it, double check it, make sure it's right, confirm it, and then what do you know? Yep. It happens. Anyway, I had 1 spare panel, so it really wasn't a catastrophe. But it could have been. I might have had to buy a whole sheet just for 1 panel if I wasn't more careful. Nonetheless, I recut a panel and moved on. The process, it took me maybe an hour and a half, taking my time putting these panels up. But it's like I said, at the end you'll see it was really worth the effort. It's instead of a plain painted room, it really has character. Now you could use this stuff in your house. I maybe in a family room or something. I wouldn't use it in the main area, but it's up to you. It's very nice, but it's easily damaged, so you got to consider that. Here's all the wainscoting panels up. Now you notice they're off the floor about 3 inches. And the purpose of that is I wanted to get 4 panels out of each of the sheets of masonite. So by elevating them, that gave me the extra height I wanted, but I didn't want them too tall either. So now I'm just trimming out the windows. Don't judge me on my finished carpentry skills. I have none. But if you all have been watching these videos, you know that this is a pole barn. It's not in my home. Now here's what I did because of that wainscoting doesn't go clear to the floor. I used strips of that one panel that I messed up, and I put a 1/4 inch standoff around the wall, around the base, and then I just used that to fill in the space between the drywall and the baseboard molding. And you can see it overlaps the wainscoting, so it gives a perfect fit, no waste. And you can also see that the wainscoting was not cut uniformly. Thank you, Mr. Saw Guy. So the baseboard goes in. It's just nailed down. Nothing special. Now here I'm starting to put the chair rail in. This is kind of finishing to the wall. I'm using MDF pre-primed. And I'm putting a ledger strip in that'll support the upper edge of the chair rail, just to give it a little flash. And what I'm doing here is I'm just making sure all my lines and references, I've shot the laser all the way around the room to make sure that I am at the low point. Okay. Now this 1x2 MDF, I cut a rabbet in it. That rabbet will allow me to put it overlapping the wainscot, so I can allow for slight variances in the cut and the position of the wainscoting. And of course I apply a liberal amount of construction adhesive. I know we're just gluing this to drywall, so and the pin nails are really not adding that much more support. So between the bonding agent, the adhesive, linking it to the wainscoting panels, and the nails and the glue on the drywall, it should make it fairly strong. So if somebody should lean on the thing when I put the top cap on, it's not going to tear away from the wall. You're going to have to work hard to tear this loose. That's the goal here. So basically I just took and cut a rabbet in each of the ledger boards, or the lower part of the molding, and went around the room. It's just, again, it's a rinse and repeat kind of thing. Easy peasy. Now here what I'm doing is I'm going to put the top half of the molding on. I'm putting a bead of construction adhesive along the top of the ledger, and then I'm going to go back and put a bead on the wall. Again, we're just gluing this to the painted drywall. So that's not, it's just paper, so it's not super strong. But every little bit of strength you can add to your project makes it that much better. Just pin nails down into the ledger board, 18 gauge again. I think these were 1.5 inches. And you notice I used a scarf joint when I joined these two, so it becomes almost invisible. And once it's finished with painter's caulk, all the gaps, seams, nail heads will disappear once I put coat of paint on it. So this, the first corner piece, I'm putting a little bit of the construction adhesive there. Already glued the ledger, and I just set it in place, a few nails, and boom. Again, rinse and repeat. The total project cost for putting the wainscoting in, baseboard molding, window trim, and the chair rail was right at $200, if you want to know. Now when I put the pieces where they abut the trim on the windows and doors, I beveled the corner where it stuck out. I wasn't sure what it would look best, but that seemed to be a good idea. Just nice snug fit, press it in, nail it, wipe the excess glue off, and move on. It's a simple project. It doesn't require a great deal of thought, but you do need to think ahead. Now, what I do when I'm doing this, I always wipe down all the edges with a sponge. So when I put the glue in, it's got a nice, clean, dust-free surface. And oops, kind of blurry. Anyway, there's what the top of the wainscoting looks like if you can see it. I guess this is probably not the best way to videotape it, but it looks good. Now I'm going to spare you the details of how to hang a door. I looked on YouTube and there are thousands of videos on how to hang a door. This is not a video on how to hang a set of French doors. This is just me hanging French doors. I like French doors. I think they're absolutely elegant. They're a little more pricey than regular old solid doors, but they just, the light and the, well, you look. See how beautiful those look? Now I'm using my laser level again to get the reference line for the handles in the door. Now these are just pull handles. They're dummy handles. There's no latching mechanism or anything. The doors are actually held shut with a little spring latch pocket in the top of the frame. Now these doors, I bought these from Lowe's. They're very nice construction. They're interior doors. Now the inside I painted white. The outside of the door that's in the other part of the barn is going to be finished in a different fashion. I haven't decided that yet, but in her room it's going to be white. Anyway, the French doors kind of look, how can I say it? French. And the handles just seem to go with it. So the doors are in. I'm putting the trim in. You can see it's still snowing outside in April. And that level there on the tripod, that's a Bosch self-leveling laser level. Pretty good. I like it. It works really good. It lets you know if it's at the margins of its accuracy. So last couple pieces of baseboard go in, and the trim is done. Now in this corner here, I'm going to put a sink, and it's going to be a corner sink. So I thought I would make some corner shelves to go with it. This is just made from leftover wood from the floor. It's just furring strips that have been cut, glued together. Now I did use biscuits to join the edges of the boards together to make them wider. But it's just the furring strips. Then they were stained the same color as the floor. And I'm setting them into stud or OSB wherever I can attach. They're not designed to carry a ton of weight. They're designed to be functional but also decorative. Now here's the sink module. You're going to love this. The sink module was a piece of leftover countertop a friend gave me. So no cost there, except I owe him, which I do appreciate. The sink and the faucet I got from Habitat, I paid $20 for. That's a deal. The handle and the hinge for the door, I think that was another $8 total. So less than $30, I have this really cool little corner sink. Now I got the drain line down there for it, but I don't have the water lines run. I don't have a water run to this side of my barn, so I didn't bother putting those fittings in yet. Besides, it would have made it that much more complicated to get that sink in place. Anyway, putting the drain line in, getting that ready, and the sink is in. Here's the final result. This is, you can see the corner moldings and the strips that cover the gaps where the wainscoting is. And then, of course, there's the other direction. I got the paper towels in, the sink in. It is now her room.
Are we videotaping still? We're good? No, don't put your fingers in front of it, honey. All right, hit stop. All right, hit stop.